Hey guys, so this is my full process for creating viral YouTube scripts for clients, even in a niche that I'm less familiar with. So it's going to walk through my entire process of going and learning a niche, learning about the client, their business model, and showing you how I actually position theirs as different than everyone else that already exists in said niche. So what's really important to note before we even hop into this, I've already taken extensive notes on this client that I'm writing for. And I have a lot of their resources, like their landing page, explaining more about the product, who it's for, notes about their story, and some limiting beliefs in their demographic, in their niche, common objections, what their unique mechanism is, aka what sets them apart from every other person selling a similar offer, and just some other info about the types of people that end up coming into this program and seeing success with the business model. So this client happens to be in the dropshipping niche, which is going to be a tougher one to write for, simply because dropshipping as a niche is a lot more competitive, right? So with this in mind, we're going to have to be way more unique with the way we position this video. And when you look at what most people do in the dropshipping niche, it's like usually the same, like over edited, oversaturated thumbnails, right? So as a thumbnail concept already, I'm definitely going to go with something more raw like this, simply because there is like, it's not always like this in every niche, but because in this niche, everyone's going with the hyper edited thumbnails, it might be best to test something a little bit more raw just because it'll stand out and is a pattern interrupt within the niche. If you ask most people about thumbnail advice, they'll say iterate on what works, but there's nuance within that because in a more crowded niche, you do have to do more to stand out. And so with something like this, I would take the risk of counter trending what works simply because I've seen people like Mark, for example, he is having a lot of success with this raw thumbnail format, and it stood out from everyone else in the niche because it communicates just raw value, no fluff, like I'm going to go and give you some game. Again, this is very niche dependent. What works in niche, one niche might not work in another, but I'd be willing to test it out just for the sake. If we needed to split test, we could, but just like off the bat, I'm thinking like more of a basic thumbnail concept, and I just have that as a note to myself. And what I noticed about this client's channel based on the previous content that he was making is a lot of it was surrounding how to make 10K a month drop shipping, right? And a lot of just numbers that just kind of seemed like generic numbers, like $100,000 a month, make $10,000 a month, right? And there's not a ton of specificity around how much money this guy has made with drop shipping. And so as a result, it just doesn't seem super believable. The one where he does talk about how he went from 0 to 60K in 30 days drop shipping with no money does actually seem believable because that number is not like a classic generic 10K. Like 10K a month online, like it works here. This video did okay. The only issue is it just doesn't provide a lot of believability or credibility that he's actually made money with dropshipping. Like $1 million, like he might have actually made $1 million total. It just doesn't seem super believable. And so what I would challenge him to do here, what I'm trying to do is give a very specific number around how much he's made in a month. Because again, if I look at what's working in the niche right now, in a very saturated niche, I look at Mark Builds Brands, who's having a lot of success, and a lot of it involves specificity around how much he's made exactly, so it doesn't seem like BS. And Brooke Hiddink is another one I would model inspiration off of because he's created a unique mechanism of high-ticket dropshipping, which is a slightly different version of dropshipping, which is about selling more expensive products. So rather than selling fidget spinners from China, you're selling saunas and home equipment. For example, $68,000 with one single sale. That seems believable. For example, in this thumbnail, he's showing like real sales dashboards, not just a million. He shows an exact number. Even if this isn't the total number, it looks believable because it's not just a generic rounded number that everyone can kind of just talk about, dropshipper 167,000 a day, et cetera, et cetera. Point being, I'm looking at the people that are breaking through the noise in this space, and I have two examples, and I'm taking inspiration, not copying, but taking inspiration from some elements that are working right now. I'm gonna have some of my Red Bull real quick. With that being said, let's iterate on that with this client and do something different than he's currently doing, which is clearly not working super well. So we're going very specific. I saw that in the VSL, in the resource that he sent, he mentioned specifically that he has made, it's on one of these resources right here, that he, in his highest month, in one of his highest months, he made 660K in a single month with this dropshipping business, right? Usually it revolves around faceless dropshipping. So that's one thing we can leverage in the title to build some credibility and then validate that within the video. And then another way we're going to separate too, rather than just doing organic dropshipping, his method of dropshipping involves using theme pages. And so this is what separates it from everyone else because it's slightly different. So we can coin it a different term like faceless dropshipping to differentiate it from every other title, because somebody, even though they might not know what that is, it's like, oh, what is that? And it sparks curiosity within the title. Again, if we need to change this, I could be wrong. Maybe going with something like organic dropshipping might work better, but I think it's worth testing because in the case of Brooke and Mark, they both have their own variations of dropshipping. For example, high ticket dropshipping or high ticket e-commerce or branded dropshipping. So I'm willing to take a bet and try faceless dropshipping as the unique mechanism here. And if this didn't have any differentiating factors that made it different, I would not make a random name for something that's exactly the same, because people are going to be like, well, that's exactly the same. Where I can differentiate is the fact that you don't need to run ads. It is actually faceless because you're doing it through Instagram theme pages. And the other thing about it is because the way he does it, he's not taking pride in being an expert product picker. He's just really good about like noticing content trends and noticing like what communities and industries are taking off, and then building the product around, what already has content market fit. So what I'm thinking for the intro is like, you can do this without running ads, without needing to be an expert product picker, and you don't need a ton of money to do this. Those are like the 3 ways I plan to stand out and differentiate from a lot of these other business models or versions of dropshipping that exist. So I'm going to speak to the people that have already been browsing dropshipping YouTube. They've probably seen a bunch of videos and immediately just kind of like addressing that within the get-go. Just going to take this phone call real quick. Okay, not taking that phone call. Okay, now that the intro is done, let me explain my thought process as to how I wrote this and some of the psychology between that goes into an effective intro. So, right off the bat, we're calling out people that have been in the dropshipping space for a while to pre-handle some skepticism around the title, right? Because anytime people see income claims or talking about like a new way of drop shipping or hint that there's some kind of new model, there's immediate skepticism because a lot of these people have been in the space, they've bought courses before, they've already heard of all this fluff, and they just feel like everything is just kind of bullshit, right? So how do we go and overcome that skepticism? Well, it's putting ourselves in the viewer's shoes. They've watched organic dropshipping videos. They've watched videos on branded dropshipping. They've watched stuff on high ticket dropshipping. A lot of it just kind of sounds like nonsense. Even though it's not, it just sounds like I'm inventing new stuff to sell you stuff. So we propose a question. Well, what if I told you there was a new untapped way to dropship that made me $660,000 in a single month? So we're backing this up with credibility. We're not just saying an untapped way to dropship. We're providing proof to keep the person engaged and also refer back to what we said in the title. If you make a claim in the title and thumbnail, it's really important to back that up within the first 30 seconds of the intro. And then we're also proving, if we're going to say untapped, we have to prove this now. That's an open loop, right? Okay, new untapped, how is it different than everything else? Let's immediately go and answer that. You don't need to learn to run Facebook ads, so it requires no ad cost. You don't have to go learn ads. You don't have to show your face or be an expert product picker to make money with this. Okay, that sounds interesting. I don't want to do any of those things. All it takes is one brain dead skill to absolutely print with this business model. So because this is a mass market offer, we want to make it very clear that like anyone can do this, even if you've never drop shipped or done anything with e-commerce. Like it's not that hard. It's very low barrier to entry. Even someone like me was able to do it. And then also prefacing, I'm going to break down exactly how I went from 0 to 660K in a month. And then also we want to like provide incentive, like what's in it for me, what's in it for the viewer, and how you can start copying me. Okay, cool. I'll be able to get similar results to him as soon as you finish this video. So some kind of urgency, like you can go and implement this right now. This is all actionable stuff that you can go and print with and make money with immediately as soon as this video. So nothing too crazy, nothing too sexy here, but we are aware and cognizant of the fact that this is a very sophisticated market and we can't really BS them. We have to show genuine proof that he's done it. So I made a note to my editor that if he has a screenshot of his sales 1 month, we should 100% show that and flash that in the intro to prove that this claim is valid and accurate. Especially again with these guys, they've seen all the dropshipping videos. They kind of know the retention hacks. They're a very aware market, so it's really important to be straight up with them and show them how this is going to be different, how this is not going to be just another dropshipping video where it's just fluff and no value and they can't back up the claims they're making. So then when we want to think about organization of this video. So there's a few things that I have in mind here. Number one, I want to think about how we can structure this video in a way that's a little bit different compared to what everyone else has done. A lot of people in the dropping shipping space, like they start with like, oh, the first thing you got to do is pick a product, like product research. But in Adrian's situation, his business model, his philosophy is a little bit different. Rather than starting with the product, he starts with the community / industry in mind, and then he starts creating content around it and then builds the product based off that community. So that's another easy way we can kind of like differentiate and show that this is not just another dropshipping video, is by challenging a common practice or a common belief within the industry and reversing the steps in which people like normally you'd be told to this, but actually with this model, we're actually going to be doing something completely different. And just based on the fact that it's structured in a different way and it doesn't feel like a copy and paste video compared to what everyone else in the industry is doing, this is going to build a lot of credibility. So I also, even with like the shots as well, I want to do the intro as talking head. And then I want to do the body of the video. I want some of it to be like a screen share process as well. So maybe like the first 2 bits are talking head, like chapter 1 and chapter 2, and then chapter 3 about the product research of him like going and finding products. That tends to be one that's really good for screen shares, simply because when they can visually see like you going through the different products and finding inspiration, visually it's just easier to understand, because again, that's just like one of the things where you no matter how many edits you put in, it's not going to be effective as screen sharing. So I'm just going to make a note for that. Just do talking head. And then with the body of the video, what I do for my clients is rather than like scripting it word for word, I'm just going to bring up some good talking points and let them riff because I want this to sound organic and natural. And they're always going to know a little bit more about the business model than I do, regardless of how much research I do. So for them to riff and just talk about the business model, it's just going to sound authentic if I just put notes and let them just riff off my points rather than me instructing them like, this is what you need to say word for word. Obviously with an intro and outro, like I do want to give them that clarity and just have them read off exactly how I have it written. But for the individual chapters, it's just going to be easier to do the bullet points and then have them riff off the top because most of them are already decent on camera and they're able to do that. So and then this is where an analogy is really helpful. So like a lot of times when you're breaking down business concepts to the 0 to 1 audience that's never run a business, a lot of times what you think is simple is not simple for them. And so this is where including analogies is really helpful. So for example, if I'm explaining like instead of doing the product research first, you actually want to address the needs and the wants of the community and like pick that first and then build the product based on what they want and need. I'm trying to think of an analogy. So basically we need to find a way to illustrate the fact that like you're not just going to sell something to people that don't want it. Like you don't want to like come up with a product and then ask them what they want. You want to ask them what they want or see what they want and then sell the product and base the product on that. So potential analogy here. I don't have anything in mind right now, but I'm just going to make a note to myself to go and do that. Maybe it'll come back to me. I'm not worried about getting this perfect right away. I can just always come back to stuff and edit it later. Yeah, like I even just like imagine building a company from scratch. Spending 5 years on that thing, only to realize one wants what? Buying. You could have easily done a survey or literally a wait list. Boom. Easy, right? So basically we're saying like, hey, the reason you do this is so you don't waste your time on products that aren't going to sell. And that's really important too, because we have to like kind of explain why we're doing this. If we're doing something unconventional or something that goes against the grain of what they've heard, if we can just provide some basic logic and reasoning behind why they're doing that, they'll buy into it and be like, yeah, that makes sense, right? And then I'm just going to make a note like list off green flags, things you look for. There's just kind of a note to Adrian about like some green flags, like, hey, what do you look for when you pick a community? Just a good note for him there when he's filming. And going in, maybe like solidifying like cool. Now this is like a pretty good spot to transition, because within these bullet points, he's going to elaborate on each point. He's not reading off this word for word. And so he gets a general gist of explaining like, okay, we're going to pick a community. Here's why you build a community, and here's what you do to pick a community. So if I had to like, I guess, outline this or simplify this for you guys, it would be like preface what we're doing here, why we're doing this, and then like the actual how to, or step by step of how we're going to go and find that community niche. So it's like, it's a little bit of prefacing, it's the why, and then it's like the how to or the what. Or it could just be like what, why, and then how to is a good way I'd summarize it here. And then you want to find a way to provide transition language. So once we get into like market research around the industry, then for chapter 2, we can open that up so it's like seamless when he goes and actually delivers the video. Because when you're writing scripts, you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that's easy for them to go and deliver when they're actually speaking it. Because how it's written, if it's not written well, it might not be orated well when they're going and filming the video. So you want to consider like, as you're writing it, this is not just static copy that's going on an email. Like somebody's going to be saying this out loud. So you want to make sure like the delivery like sounds good. So sometimes I'll like read back sentences or intros and outros in my head and imagining the person is speaking it out loud to fully picture what it's going to be like when it comes out in the YouTube video. So then I can immediately cross off the stuff that sounds awkward or weird or robotic, and I can validate, oh, this actually sounds good. Like I could picture myself hearing this in a YouTube video and it sounds normal. Going to specify this is also going to be a talking head bit, and that is to make content. And then I also want to tie this back to what we said in the intro about like the one brain dead skill. Again, we're just kind of validating, and like people hate clickbait, especially in the online business, dropshipping, finance space. So we want to validate. So like when we talk about the one brain dead skill, like we should tie it back so that people are like, oh, okay, he's not totally like misleading me. Like there is actually like some explaining about what I heard in the intro. Cool. And then another analogy here, because it's like if we're introducing a new concept, we should probably follow up with a analogy that makes sense to this audience. So whenever you're doing an analogy, you always want to try to relate something that's like a new concept to something that people have already, like something that people already understand or have already seen. So theme page, okay, if we're talking about Instagram theme pages here and they don't know what that is, like if you've ever seen the account Wealth or Entrepreneur with all these different promotions, they're not just making that content for free. They're actually pushing. Yeah. Okay. So that's what we're going to do here. All right. So I just went ahead and wrote the rest of the script because most of this video is just me typing, but I'm going to walk through my thought process on everything I did after starting chapter 2. So the analogy I ended up using for this was showing them or talking about the big theme pages that they probably already seen, like Wealth, Entrepreneur, the big motivation pages, and explaining like, hey, they're not actually making their content for free. They're all silently selling products to their audience. If I make a claim like that, I should probably go and prove it. So I instruct Adrian to go to a screen share here and show some of the well-known theme pages on IG that are pushing e-com and physical products, right? And then I want to show proof that he did it as well, and then go to the theme pages associated with his $660K a month drop shipping or e-com store, and then show his process for like stealing viral content from other pages, because we talked about like you need this one skill, and it's not that hard, brain dead. So we're validating the fact that it's brain dead by explaining the fact that you don't have to be original. And then we can further prove that it's brain dead by showing a software. If there's a software that exists to like steal viral content, we can go and show them that as well. And then if there's anything that he does to edit the content or outsource the content production to make it easy, definitely worth mentioning as well, because again, this is like a content centric business. So some of his systems and processes around that are like definitely helpful to know. Now, when we go to chapter 3, this is going back to the talking head. We're going to talk about some product research real quick. And again, I want to substantiate what we said in the title, or the intro rather, by saying like, hey, you don't need to be an expert product picker because we've already done most of the heavy lifting. Instead of like coming up with like a new product or like, spending all this time, we can just see what these communities are already buying and then just cater toward that need instead of reinventing the wheel. We transition back to the screen share portion. And then again, we like just show live like him going and finding winning products from an existing store. And then if there's like a software again to show them that it's like really easy and you can use like a software to identify the trends. That's also a really good way to show how brain dead it is or easy it is to do the product research. And then how to go and find a supplier if that's on the cards as well for this video. And then if he's comfortable, because not everyone in the e-com space is comfortable showing this, if you can go and show the winning product that brought him a $660K a month and explain the thought process of how he went and found that would be really valuable as well, because there's just like more proof that this actually happened. Again, when we're making a big claim like this, we want to substantiate it throughout the video. And then we also want to make it easy for the audience to go and follow along, because like even though it might be pretty straightforward, we really want to spell it out like, hey, here are green flags to look for in a potential product based on what we just went over, and here are things to avoid. He's already going to go over some of that naturally when he goes through his process screen sharing, but just to summarize it in like a checklist, like use this checklist when you're going and finding products, that just makes it really digestible for the audience. And like, again, we said you can copy me at the end of this video. The more things we do like that to give them like easy like play-by-plays or checklists, the higher the viewer satisfaction is going to be, because they're going to be able to walk away and like very clearly know, okay, here's a checklist. When I'm going through products, I can just copy what Adrian told me to do. And anytime you have an opportunity to do that and make it easier for your audience to go and implement the feedback, advice, or information you're giving them, they really appreciate that. And what's important in chapter 4 is we want to show proof that this was not luck, right? And the big, I guess, complaint or grievance in the dropshipping niche is that you're just teaching me some outdated strategy now. So we want to prove that that's not the case and pre-handle that objection or that comment. So we say, but let me prove to you that this is still the meta for anyone looking to start dropshipping in 2025. And we're going to insert testimonials here. But what's really, really important is we specify that these are all recent and within the last few months. If we have any 2025 related ones, even better, hopefully from late 2024. And we want to make it very clear, like these are all people. These are 3 concrete examples of people that are making money with this business model in the last 90 days, right? And so that validates the claim that like this is still working. This is the meta for 2025. We need to substantiate that. And we're basically saying, hey, all these people I just mentioned, they're cleaning up with faceless dropshipping. I don't want you to miss out, kind of showing some care about the viewer. They're all part of my digital creator group, which is the name of his coaching program. We're trying to be specific. And we kind of give a brief overview of what they get. Like I literally hold your hand to make sure you start making money with your first store. this isn't just a course. This is live coaching. Again, more differentiation. This isn't some stupid outdated dropshipping course. This is live coaching with real accountability and live updates based on what I'm seeing in the space, positioning himself as an authority, as somebody that's going to be giving you the sauce and giving you the updates. And with anytime you're like doing a CTA, like you don't have to go super specific with like you get this many calls, you get this much course material. Like you really just need to give a brief overview, and then all you're doing is you're selling the click. So all you're doing is selling the link in description click. You're not selling the course or selling the community with the outro. You're just selling the page view, and then this will do the selling of the product, right? So don't worry about giving a full breakdown of what that is. You're just trying to sell the click or sell the link, not sell the product in the outro. So you can keep this kind of brief and you don't have to deliberate too hard here. And then with the outro, just kind of piggybacking off what we talk about or hint at in this chapter. So if you're looking to get into faceless dropshipping in 2025, you can check out the link in the description to learn more about the digital creator group. If you're just looking for more free content, make sure you subscribe to my channel because got some awesome stuff planned for you guys. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next one. Again, we don't need to like recap the entire video here. Like that's just a waste of like time and space for everyone. We're not going to just hurt retention by rehashing and recapping everything that we went on. We just kind of want to cut it right there and just finish the end of the video. There's no reason to, keep going for no reason, just to consume more minutes. It just doesn't make sense. But if I had to summarize some of the most important things that I covered in this video, it's funny because I literally just talked about not summarizing. I'm just going to explain it to you differently in some different ways and not rehash the same stuff. But some of like the main elements I used in this that I didn't fully explain or I might have glazed over are, number one is the title and thumbnail sell the intro. The intro sells the body of the video, and the body of the video sells the CTA/the outro. And when you think about YouTube like this, everything really starts to make sense because when you're using this, you're setting an expectation. When you set that expectation in the title and thumbnail, that expectation has to be met or exceeded in the intro. And then you're in the intro, you're setting like the stage for what the video is going to be about. So you're setting another expectation. Then when you set that expectation, you have to deliver on that expectation within the body. And then within this, you're kind of setting even more of an expectation around, okay, this business model, like I can start this, And you also set an expectation here by showing how lucrative the opportunity is. And then you have to deliver on that expectation in the outro/CTA. So a lot of YouTube and a lot of scripting and effective video is just setting an expectation and delivering on set expectation or exceeding it even better. And also in a more saturated market, when you make claims like this, notice how in the script and throughout the script, I'm constantly delivering on that claim by showing as much proof and credibility as possible, not only in the copy, but with the edits as well. Like even made a note, like for this, especially in the intro, definitely want to show a sales screenshot for 660K to prove the fact that this actually happened. I'm showing real concrete examples of him like talking about the theme pages he ran and the product he sold to give concrete proof that he actually did this. And then I'm even going above and beyond with the chapter 4 and adding an entire section dedicated to social proof to prove or show that this is not outdated and people are still seeing success with business models. Some people would with this business model, some people would just show general testimonials here. I'm making a specific note to show recent ones to prove to people that yes, even in 2025, this still works, because again, that's like something people deal with in the dropshipping space. They go and watch these YouTube videos only to realize that the strategies are outdated. So I really, really want to make that clear. And then I am transitioning that. It's a very seamless transition into the call to action because I'm literally talking about people within the group without making it super clear that they're in the group. And then it's just a pretty easy transition, not super abrupt here, to his coaching program. And it's a way that makes sense. It's not drawn out. It's not overly long. It's just kind of simple and straight to the point. Hey, these are some people that are winning. They happen to be part of my coaching program. If you want to be part of that, click the link. You can learn more. See you later. Just keeping it very brief, wrapping it up, and making sure that the video is still value-centric and it's not just one giant pitch. So that's my process for how I think about YouTube videos. If you want to see more stuff like this, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.